Warrior sidekicks are the brawn to your brains, the muscle, the tough guys with a soft side who will do anything for their friends. So in this video, I'm going to share my top 5 creatures in Dungeons & Dragons for the Warrior Sidekick from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Here we go. Hey, Bob here, and this is where we learn how to have more fun playing D&D together. So hit that subscribe button for new videos every Wednesday. And check out the Expert Sidekick video linked in the description for background on how all sidekicks work and the criteria I use to narrow down my favorites. Which was pretty difficult, because unlike the Expert and the Spellcaster, Warrior Sidekicks don't have that language requirement, so almost anything goes. And Warriors are definitely the most simple of the 3 Sidekick classes. At level 1, they get proficiency in Strength, Dexterity, or Con saving throws, 2 skill proficiencies from this list, proficiency in all armor, and if it's a humanoid or already uses a weapon, they get proficiency in all weapons and shields. Level 1 is also where you choose a sort of subclass called their martial role. Attacker gets +2 to all attacks, basically stealing the spotlight from your player character, and defenders can use their reaction to protect allies. Personally, I would just use a hybrid of the two, +1 to all attacks and this defender feature to make them a worthwhile sidekick. At level 2, warriors get the second wind fighter feature, allowing them to regain some hit points as a bonus action. At level 3, they can crit on a natural 19 or 20 like the champion fighter subclass, and at levels 4, 8, 12, 14, 16, and 19, they can increase their ability scores. Then at 6th level, their extra attack feature kicks in, and it can be used instead of multi-attack if the creature already has that, not in the same turn. They get advantage on initiative rolls at level 7, +1 to their AC at 10, and the ability to re-roll a failed saving throw at 11. So warriors are kinda just a weaker champion fighter, and that's fine. I don't really like the idea of having a sidekick who is a better combatant than any player character, because D&D is such a combat-focused system. And for that reason, my top 5 warriors are all creatures with great abilities for assisting your PCs, but some of them also happen to be great at kicking butt. Number 5 is the Constrictor Snake, proving that mere beasts should not be underestimated. The Constrictor Snake's 10 feet of blind sight is as good as 15 feet on a grid because they're large, and that size makes them big enough to use as a mount, on land or water, because they also have a 30-foot swim speed. Their attack damage is okay, but what makes the Constrictor Snake a great sidekick is their ability to constrict any size creature. Usually, this kind of feature that grapples and automatically restrains the target has a limitation on size, but the Constrictor Snake can pin down any target, giving it disadvantage on attacks and giving you and your allies advantage on all attacks against it. For a similar reason, number 4 is the Darkmantle. A Darkmantle clings to cavern ceilings, remaining perfectly still as it waits for creatures to pass beneath it. From a distance, it can pass itself off as a stalactite or a lump of stone. Then it drops from the ceiling and unfurls, surrounding itself with magical darkness as it engulfs and crushes its prey. Darkmantles are native to the Underdark and the Shadowfell, and are sometimes trained as guardians or companions. Good hit points, a flying speed, 60 feet of blind sight with no sunlight sensitivity, and some features that make it a perfect predator and ally. The false appearance trait camouflages Darkmantles like natural objects while motionless, and they can create areas of magical darkness for up to 10 minutes, which is cool for them, but not necessarily for your party unless you're a solo warlock with that one ability to see through magical darkness. The reason Darkmantles are slightly better than Constrictor Snakes, their crush attack has advantage on medium or smaller creatures. It blinds the target, which, like restrains, means the target has disadvantage on attacks while you have advantage to hit them, and it also prevents the target from breathing, so the suffocating target cannot speak or cast any spells with a verbal component, making this a very effective attack against any magical enemies. But if you want to restrain more than one enemy at a time, you want sidekick number 3, the Vine Blight. Appearing as masses of slithering creepers, Vine Blights hide in undergrowth and wait for prey to draw near. By animating the plants around them, Vine Blights entangle and hinder their foes before attacking. Fans of the channel know I love Blights, and these guys actually have solid hit points and are not vulnerable to fire. They have 60 feet of blind sight, and despite what D&D Beyond says, Vine Blights can actually speak common according to the monster manual and the description right below their stat block. What makes Vine Blights excellent sidekicks are their 2 attacks. Constrict, which has a 10-foot reach, does as much damage as a greatsword and restrains targets that are large or smaller. And Entangling Plants, which creates a 15-foot radius circle of difficult terrain that also restrains any creatures of the Blight's choosing, so they can spare their allies while controlling the battlefield. The one drawback is that Vine Blights only have a 10-foot walking speed, but you can solve this in 2 fun ways that rely on their false appearance as a bundle of vines. 1. Drag around a big tumbleweed everywhere you go, or 2. Wear your sidekick with its vines wrapped around you like a set of living armor. This option is very cool for druids and rangers, and it basically makes you like a cool anime character. And honestly, this next sidekick does too. Number 2, the Shadow. These undead resemble dark exaggerations of humanoid shadows. So why not have your own shadow as a sidekick? 40-foot speed, dark vision, just tons of resistances and immunities. They can move through 1-inch gaps, hide as a bonus action in dim light and darkness, and while shadows do have disadvantage on pretty much all rolls while in sunlight, and vulnerability to radiant damage, these traits are so thematic that I don't even care. That's just cool. And their one attack is literally perfect for weakening enemies. Strength Drain is also as good as a greatsword. It reduces the target's strength score by 1d4 until their next rest, and if non-evil humanoids are killed by their strength dropping to 0, they become a shadow. Now before we dive into honorable mentions, I wanted to mention that the Shadow Sidekick is already kind of part of my game. One of the players in my Icewind Dale campaign recently acquired a Moonbow, our reskinned version of the Moon Blade, and as written in the DMG, it allows them to create an Elf Shadow. Elf Shadows use the same monster manual stats we just talked about, except they cannot be turned or create new shadows with their strength drain. And to make tracking that drain a little easier on me as a DM, I've decided it will always reduce the target's strength score by just 2 points instead of 1d4. So any strength-based features just drop by 1. Nice and simple. As promised for our warrior honorable mentions, we have a lot. Gazer, those tiny flying beholders with randomly determined eye-ray attacks. Kuatoa, slippery fish people with nets and sticky shields to frustrate your DM. Gray Ooze, amorphous, metal-corroding goop to really frustrate your DM. The Cockatrice, little birds that can turn their targets to stone. Hobgoblins, if you actually just want a warrior sidekick with an insanely good attack feature. The Warhorse, if you just want a reliable mount with a really good attack feature. Giant Owl, a flying mount with awesome dark vision that never takes opportunity attacks while flying. And the Flying Sword. I mean, it's a freaking flying sword with blind sight and a bunch of immunities that can attack on its own, and it's indistinguishable from a normal sword. Probably the coolest choice if you're okay with having a sidekick that just does good damage without really assisting your character. And heck, why not just pair it with the Crawling Claw to look like a ghostly warrior whose hand and sword is all that remains? And remember to give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying these ideas. But why have a phony ghost when you could have a completely invisible sidekick? My number 1, the Skulk. Skulks are the soulless shells of travelers who became lost in the Shadowfell, wandering its gray wastes until they lost all sense of self. They are so devoid of identity that they have become permanently invisible. Only children can see a Skulk without the help of a mirror or a special candle. On the rare occasions when a Skulk is visible, it appears as a drab, featureless, hairless humanoid. A Skulk can be summoned from the Shadowfell by performing a ritual. If the creature is given a portion of the summoner's identity, the Skulk is bound to obey the summoner's commands for 30 days. If a Skulk is visible, an astute observer might deduce who summoned it because a Skulk assumes a vague likeness of its master. So whether the Skulk was recently summoned or was your character's quote-unquote imaginary friend as a child, they're a devoted, invisible companion who, rules as written, can technically only be seen 3 ways: as a reflection, in the light of unknown human fat candles, and by kids 10 and under. So technically, Blind Sight, Tremor Sense, True Sight, or anything else doesn't work. I would probably not rule it that way, but still, most enemies don't have those abilities, so they would have disadvantage on any attacks against the Skulk, and the Skulk would have advantage when attacking them, making its claws even better than a greatsword. Now be sure to subscribe and consider supporting this community by joining our Patreon, like Katerius, Isabel, Ben, Big Dan Blaster, Siobhan, your boy Elijah, Patrick, Anthony, Theo, and Samwise just did. Thank you all for your support, and keep building.